yourself, dear.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome back to the 415. I'm sure you are wondering where we are. We are still here. I will be joined momentarily by my co-hostess with the mostest. Anyway, hi there, guys. All right, we are days away from you-know-what day, and we are going to be talking all about it as soon as my co-host joins me. In any event, the opinions expressed on the 415 are of those of myself and my co-hostess. We will be starting with you momentarily while they get themselves called in. The 415 is brought to you on the auspices of the Amazing Wild Hunt. Please support wildhunt.org. Also, the Amazing Dorothy Morrison. Please check out dorothymorrison.net for all your Dorothy Morrison news. So here we go with the show, and joining me as always is the incredible and awesome Starr Bustamonte. Say hello, Starr.
Hello, Starr.
And please, everybody, and of course someone wants to fucking mow their lawn while we're doing this. Gee, boy. Timing is everything. Okay, so, please support, let me do my commercial for our favorite paper of record, The Amazing Wild Hunt. Everybody, please support The Wild Hunt. It is the pagan paper of record. Please give it all of your support. They have real journalists going out on real assignments, doing real things, getting real stories with real people. They are not AI. They are genuine, actual reporters. They are phenomenal. We love them, and for the cost of less than a Starbuckian thing of that nature, instead of getting overblown coffee, definitely consider or do both. You know what? You can do both. I am not going to tell you not to. So, once again, I am here with the amazing Starr Bustamonte. We have a lot to talk about. We may run a little bit over today because of all of the things we need to talk about. The first thing I do want to talk about is the fact that Starr has gone through something fairly horrendous. Let us not forget about our sisters and brothers who have gone through the terrible thing that was known as Helene recently and the aftermath thereof. Starr, can you give us an update on what's going on with relief efforts up in the mountains of Asheville and surrounding Swanoa and other regions?
So things have gotten better for many, but there are still a lot of areas that do not have water, that do not have power. There are some parts of the mountains that will not have power until probably the beginning of next year.
Wow.
So that's a lot. As
power?
for I'm sorry?
Was that power or water or both?
Both, I think. I know that, some of these hardest hit areas are, they're hard to access, or there was so much damage that, they're having a hard time getting to them, and like the infrastructure was so severely damaged that, it's going to take that long. I mean, when you consider that in the city of Asheville, it took weeks before power was restored. Now we were fortunate. We were fortunate at the shop because we had power restored within about a week, and then our internet, came back not too long after that. So we were very fortunate. Other areas are not so fortunate. I mean, I'm telling you, okay, for everybody out there who's listening, whatever you have seen on TV, it doesn't even come close. Seeing this shit up close and personal, I mean, it's unreal. And there are parts of town that you can drive through and they look perfectly normal. And then there are, then you go to Swannanoa and it is, or Biltmore Village or the River Arts District, and it looks like a goddamn war zone. And I'm not exaggerating at all. I've been through a couple of natural disasters. I have never seen anything like what we saw here. Just in our neighborhood, just to give you an example, okay, there's probably over 100 trees down between our house and the main road. The insurance adjuster that our landlord brought in to look at the roof, he drove into our neighborhood. He said that in his 25-plus years of being an insurance adjuster, he had never seen so much tree damage from one storm. And I mean, we're talking big ass trees, like trees that I could not reach around. Just between our house and the road to get down to the main road, there were probably, a dozen trees down. It took two teams of neighbors, one coming from the top down and one coming from the bottom up, 36 hours to cut a path down all the way. And I'm lucky. Like, all we lost was power and water. And, of course, nobody still has potable water. They just installed, excuse me, they just installed the curtains in the reservoir. Those were the installation was complete yesterday evening. Wow. So the particle numbers are starting to come down, but I mean, this is just going to take it's going to take a little bit of time for the water to settle. It is settling, and it's come down a little bit, pretty much, every day it's been dropping, roughly anywhere from 6 to 8/10 of a point every day. But we're still at, I think, when I heard the briefing this morning, we were at 22.1 or 2, I think, is what Clay Chandler, who's the spokesperson for the water department, said, and which is down from, it was 22.9 or 23 point something the day before. So it is coming down. We've had pretty much perfect conditions the last little while, because there's not been a lot of wind. They've added more of the aluminum that they add that acts as a coagulant and helps to pull the particles together so that they clump and go to the bottom. And then they're also adding, it's a caustic soda. And both of these are very safe to add. This is what the city of Asheville uses on a regular basis. They're just using a lot more of it. And then, of course, the water is heavily chlorinated. But, I mean, it is not safe to drink. It is safe to bathe in. It's safe to do laundry. It's safe to, run your dishwasher as long as it gets up to a certain temp. anything that you're doing, hand washing dishes, then you have to do like some kind of sanitizer bath, which, tablespoon of bleach in a gallon of water works just fine. So there's that. The early days of this, it was some mad shit, okay? Hannah and I, we made the decision to stay open or to open back up on the Monday after the storm simply because people were desperate. They were desperate for supplies and, like cat food and litter and water. And we had already started getting people dropping off stuff. So we were like, okay, well, if we're going to be here and hand out cat food, we might as well just open the shop. The cats could use probably some interaction because they're not used to going this many days without there being a bunch of people around. So that's what we did. And we made the decision to be open 7 days a week, but shorten our hours a little bit. So instead of being open 11 to 7, we're open 12 to 6, but we're open 7 days a week. Until we were able to get, flush the toilets with, like even non-potable water that was being pumped in by the city, we were literally hauling in anywhere between, 15 and 20 gallons a day of water to be able to flush the toilets here and to be able to wash dishes. And then Mary, who has Mystic Seas Kitten Rescue in Anderson, South Carolina, she did a fundraiser for Binks's in order to help us meet the cost of what it's like to run a rescue. And then she also put a call out for supplies, which resulted in several truckloads of stuff coming up here. And since then, we have done nothing but hand out cat litter, cat food, even some dog food. Anything you can think of that's cat related. We were handing out supplies, and we're still handing out supplies. Just this morning, I handed out, about 40 pounds of cat food and a couple cases of wet food to a woman who has like 10 cats.
Wow. How do people contribute? Where do they go to send money for these supplies? Because it seems like the need is going to continue for a while.
Right. Well, so the thing that we're trying to raise money for right now is our vet, Dr. Dragon. She's a mobile vet. Her van was flooded. And so, imagine that you have a surgery unit and it becomes flooded and then there's mold everywhere. And now imagine that that's a mobile unit. So literally there's no way to clean that up that you would be able to have a sterile environment. So the van was toast. What the cost to rehab the van would be even more than it would to just buy a new one. So Hannah started a GoFundMe for PAWS, mobile veterinary service, I think. But you can find links for that on both the Binks's page and on House of Black Cat Magic. On all of we're on all of the things, Facebook, Instagram, our website, houseofblackcatmagic.com will get you to Binks's. But yeah, so our goal is 50,000 on that. I think the last time I looked, we were about at 23,000. We've already got some pledges from a couple of other nonprofits, so we have a really good chance of meeting our goal to get them a new van on this. But yeah, if you're looking to help, that would be the first thing that I would say, And I'm sure if we need more supplies or whatever, just look at any of our social media or go to our website, and if there'll be links there. Meanwhile, there are still, this is liable to be a really bad winter. I cannot stress enough how bad it is here. People think because water service was restored and there's power and there's internet most places that it's all fine. I'm here to tell you it's not fine. Anybody who says they're okay, they're not fucking okay, okay? Like, even if we say, oh, yeah, I'm okay, we're not okay. And we're not going to be okay, and Asheville is going to be different moving forward. It just is. I mean, whole fucking parts of it are gone. Whole towns are gone. You know, Chimney Rock is gonna come back. Will it be the same? No, it will not. What happens with the River Arts District? Who the fuck knows? You know, I mean, that is a floodplain. So there's that. There are so many people that need so many things. I don't even know where to begin. I know that Byron Ballard with Mother Grove Goddess Temple, they've been in the news a lot because they're one of the few pagan organizations that is doing aid for humans, and they've been doing apparently a great job. You know, we have chosen to focus on the animal part of things because, for the most part, people with animals, you know, it's like that's not usually a demand that the Red Cross works with. Well, guess what? They've been coming to us for supplies. A week ago, Monday, we sent first a carload into one of the low-income housing units with them, and then they came back and filled up a van to take down to, I think they were going to Bat Cave and maybe Saluda, because as the lady told me, she said that is not something that we normally supply, but there seems to be a lot of demand in this area for, you know, cat and dog food and litter. And one of the things that Mary brilliantly thought of, you know, those little paper boats, like when you go to the fair and you get your French fries and they're in this little paper boat thing instead of on a plate. She sent us a case of those, which absolutely saved us, because otherwise we were washing on average about 60 bowls a day and having to do it outside because we didn't have running water. So we had to set up, you know, a bin to wash, a bin to rinse that was, you know, somewhat sanitized, and then a final sanitizer rinse, and then let them air dry. It's great fun. Nothing I love to do better than wash, you know, tiny cat bowls outside. But she sent those paper containers. I mean, it was the best thing since sliced bread, because you know, all that shit has to be changed like twice a day, right? So we just were able to, you know, when it hit them, you know, which granted, there's definitely more trash being generated by this. There's just fucking piles of debris every goddamn where. You know, I mean, recovery is going to be long, and you know, who knows? I mean, like, even the authorities cannot tell us when we will have water that is drinkable. So there's that, you know, and estimates for some of the power restoration, like in Black Mountain, Swannanoa, and other places, you know, north, west, they don't know. Let's see. Oh, big news yesterday. So the bridge on I-26 going into Tennessee and Unicoi, Irwin, Tennessee. Okay, that bridge collapsed. Like, I don't know, like a few weeks ago, and so there's been no way to get here from the west or from the north unless you came down 77 and then picked up 40. At one point, you couldn't go 40, you know, to the east of Asheville at Old Fort. There was a slide or collapse there, and so you couldn't get that. Well, initially, you couldn't get here from anywhere. There was no way into this region at all, because 26 south of Asheville was flooded. It was a mess. But yesterday they announced that that there is one lane open both ways, 26 going into Tennessee. So there's that. It's not open to commercial traffic, though. I-40 West, who the fuck knows? I mean, it's a mess. I mean, they're saying, when they say we don't know when that's going to happen, that tells you how bad it is, because it's not just one section, it's multiple sections. Blue Ridge Parkway, they have reopened about 55 miles of that, but much of it is closed, and there is no estimate on when it might be restored, if ever. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. What else do you want to know? What am I forgetting? Because I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch.
Well, I mean, I'm sure people want to support the shops that they're used to coming to, and given the hardship of getting there, we don't want people to feel abandoned. Are there ways to buy things online? Do people have enough internet support up there that we can check in online? Are restaurants open now, or are there things that can be done remotely if we can't get there in person?
Yeah. So, I mean, most businesses that plan to continue operating. Okay, so here's a little side story, right? So we've been trying to get a friggin' sign out front for, I don't know. It's been a while. We thought we would have our sign out front, I don't know, in time for our 1-year anniversary. But because the city is it's a long story that I will not bore you with, but we've pretty kind of given up on it, and we filed for a variance in order to get our sign is very fucking cool too, I might add. It is the coolest sign you will ever see, but because it was a single post and not two posts, and and didn't fit the city's fuckery guidelines, they were giving us a hard time about it. So we filed for a variance. And they were supposed to hear that at the, at the meeting that governs all that crap, and a planning zone meeting. And then, of course, that was supposed to happen on that Friday, I think, that the hurricane hit. So clearly that did not happen. And, that wasn't at the top of our list of things that we were concerned about. And then right. I think last week or the week before, somebody from planning called Hannah and said, so I don't want to offend you, but I got to ask, do we keep you on the agenda for whenever we can, get you in a meeting? And Hannah was like, and he said, I'm asking, do you intend to try to stay open? He's like, because if you're going to close, then there's no need for us to, and obviously planning has a lot to dealing with this disaster. So that gives you,
sure.
So can you imagine being the poor guy that has to call all these businesses that are putting in for variances and other stuff and saying, so I don't really want to hurt your feelings or upset you, but are you going to be around in 6 months or Yeah. And so hopefully our sign will, variance case will be heard maybe in November. Maybe in December, maybe next year. I don't know. One of the other things that I want to mention, okay, I digress. Anybody that has a website that's functional, I mean, buy from people online. I would say, I don't know what the status is with hotels, but a lot of businesses, so just not my favorite place, but Chick-fil-A has brought in a filtration water and a filtration system, and I mean, so that they can operate. They're one of the places that you can order a friggin' sandwich and get it. Although many of the fast food places are coming back online, they're also, restaurants are starting to reopen. They're figuring it out. As a tourist, do not fucking come here. As a disaster tourist, never come here. I will stab you with a pencil if I catch you. It's not. We have enough to deal with. certain presidential candidates coming and insisting on driving through some of the worst hit areas like Swannanoa is really not fucking helpful. If you want somebody's vote, do not fucking do that. And as an individual, just do not fucking come here. If you're bringing stuff to drop off, bring it, drop it off, and then fucking leave. Hand out money, hand out $100 bills before you go. How about that? But any business that you love and you want to support, find them online and donate, or buy stuff from their website. I'm sure that, Mother Grove will happily take your donation. I'm sure other stores like us, Asheville, Raven and Crone, Jonathan just opened up a new place. What the hell is it called? Calamus and Honey. If you're in the artists, there are a ton of artists here. Many of them lost their studios and are trying to sell stuff. I don't have a list of those because there's not enough hours in the day for me to even do that. But if you have favorite artists here, look them up, buy from them. Just fucking Venmo them some money if that's something that you have the ability to do. And if you don't, and I get it because not everybody's doing great financially, share their websites. Pick a different artist every day and share their shit. One other thing that I want to point out, because this is a huge thing. Less than 1% of people living here had flood insurance because it just, like if you live halfway up a mountain, you ain't going to have flood insurance. Well, guess what? If your house flooded or got run over by a friggin' landslide that was due to water, your insurance won't cover that. Tons of people in Swannanoa. Right? Yeah, tons of people in Swannanoa that lost their houses due to flooding, even though the house is still standing and it needs, a huge amount of remediation. Like, they're fucked. Insurance will not pay for that. Never mind that property had never flooded before. It doesn't matter. The insurance company's like, yeah, so sorry. And granted, FEMA's going to help, but if you have a $300,000 house and FEMA's like, well, hey, you qualify for the highest amount, that's $42,000 and change. Okay.
It doesn't replace your house.
No, and remediation is going to cost probably more than what the house is worth. So you can't. This is a case of you can't afford to tear it down and you can't afford to fix it. And there is just, there are many, many stories like that. So I mean, I feel guilty, like just even complaining that oh, my arms are tired because I carried a lot of water and I haven't slept in like fucking a month. I am fortunate because, I did not lose my house. There's not a fucking tree in my roof. My whole family didn't get murdered by a fucking landslide because that's what happened in Guerin Creek. 11 people, the family that lived in Guerin Creek, which is also known as Craigtown, they're all dead. And the sheriff and his nephew who were trying to, or not sheriff, fire chief and his nephew who were rescuing people from because it was a series of 3 slides, both got killed. They're both dead. There's been, there's still a huge missing list, and the numbers of dead are going to continue to grow. We're all still under the threat of more slides, especially in areas where there were, previous slides, or the area has been, lost a bunch of trees. All of those areas are in danger of slides. It's something that, anybody that lives on a slope is a little worried about. And just because the fun never ends, it's also been very dry here. We got a little bit of rain last weekend, but we're also we're in a drought, and which is hard to fathom considering we got 30 fucking inches of rain in But so the risk of fire is really high as well. So that's fun. I figure locusts are next,
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Oh, and hey,
fun.
blessed Samhain and happy Halloween.
Well, I'm hoping that the ancestors are kind and have good messages, and are kind of helping from that side. I spent a good deal of this morning speaking, asking, thanking, gratitude, lots of gratitude, lots of gratitude, lots of gratitude. As I do on this day annually, as I try to do every day, and sometimes I don't because I get caught up in life. But it's been heavy. It's been one of the heavier years. I had a lot of people cross over this year, closer together. But as I'm fond of saying, sometimes people have to die for other shit to happen. And sometimes it has to be your relatives, and it was this year. But yeah, no, it's been interesting, and I think, I don't know what we're supposed to learn when certain things happen until later. I don't know what we were supposed to learn from the tragedy that happened to Pauline. We're still learning what it is. I think I get nervous every time I get near trees now. We've had trees fall well after the fact here in the city that have disruptions, have knocked out roofs. We went very briefly without power. When I say briefly, I'm saying 5 days. And trust me, 5 days is not a spit when you consider what's gone on in the mountains. And it's all relative, Some people get inconvenienced for a couple of hours and, it's a nightmare. Some people still don't have power, and it's been months, or it feels like months at this point. I just, everything is relative. And I work with someone who has been through the war in Bosnia. And, try going without power for 3 years. Then you'll know what a hardship is. And I'm like, yeah, it's all relative, man. When we talk about, white privilege, American privilege, not being an alien, being an alien, this woman came from a country where she was regarded as quite an intelligent person, very high-paying job, and came to this country and accent was looked upon as somebody who knew nothing. And it just shatters me every time when I think about people who come to this country and get treated like third-class citizens, and then you have someone who wants to preside over this country and just talk to these people like they're nothing and like they're stupid, and, treat them with such disregard and contempt. It's ridiculous, How dare we treat any human being that's smarter than us half the time. These people are smarter than us, and they're cleaning up after us. It's so insulting and degrading and ridiculous, and we should be hearing their intelligence and treating them with so much more respect than they get. It's just, just so many things are aggravating me right now. I'm so sorry.
Well, yeah, for sure. And so where we are politically, let me just make this really, really clear. Okay?
Please.
On one side of the line, you have what can only be defined as racist, authoritarians, who have also, in the last month or two, basically created what can only be described as a blood libel situation. When they got on the bandwagon for, Haitians eating the cats and the dogs and that whole thing, and they have not backed off from that, right? I mean, they still have not backed off from that. That is blood libel. And because what they are doing is they are inciting violence towards a specific demographic that is non-white. When Trump says, starts talking about immigration and how we're going to do mass deportations, and he calls them vermin and he calls them animals and all of the stuff. I don't need to repeat it. Anybody if you've lived through the last 8 years, anybody listening knows as well as I do the shit that he has said. Whether they want to admit it or not. Okay, but here's the thing: that is the language of an authoritarian, but it is also inciting violence, and is towards specific demographics, which is anyone basically who is not white, I think a lot of pagans are white, and they're like, well, it won't be that bad. That's what we said the first time around, right? They haven't really picked on pagans. It's not going to be that bad. I can assure you this time around it's going to be way bad. And as I said then, I said, make no mistake, they'll get around to us, Just because they haven't come knocking on your door yet doesn't mean jack shit.
They will.
And, they will. They will. So, so let me just say that if you have not already fucking voted, you need to go vote. Early voting continues through the 2nd, I believe, in North Carolina. Other places, I don't know. But you can go online and you can look it up. And, even if you have not registered to vote, in most states you can register and vote same day. It just means that you make sure you get it right because it's a provisional ballot, and if you make a mistake, it won't count. Otherwise, you can still vote. So, go vote. Do not wait. If you have to go on election day, go on election day. But vote. And if you're voting for Trump, Lord knows I cannot help you. And if he wins, do not come tell me about, your troubles, because I would be the one who said, do not vote for that fucker. He is awful. And, just the shit that whole thing in Madison, that rally at Madison Square Garden, that MSG rally was, that was something. Do you watch any of it?
That was specifically, you have to remember, that was specifically picked because that was the rally. That was supposed to emulate the rally that was given by the Nazis. There is not a reason, there's not a thing that they do that is not supposed to emulate something else. I'm going to tell you that right now. So, number one, that was picked for a reason. That location was picked for a reason. Number two, this whole thing about Biden's gaffe about calling people garbage. Trump's been calling people garbage. First of all, Biden didn't call anybody specifically garbage except for one person, and that was the guy who made the joke about Puerto Rico being an entire floating island of garbage. Puerto Rico is a part of the United States, for those of you who have forgotten that. Puerto Rico is part of our country. I don't know why people continue to separate them out like they're some foreign nation. They are not a foreign nation, y'all.
Well, they don't want them to be part of the
territory. U.S. Well, they are part.
They don't want them to be able to vote.
They're part of the U.S. They need to be able to vote because they're United States people like the rest of us. I don't give a fuck what they say.
Yeah.
That's a U.S. territory. That's the United States. And we need to stop fucking treating them like second-class citizens. That's fucking bullshit. And if you're from New York, most of the people you've hung out with are fucking Puerto Rican people. You can't fucking say shit about Puerto Rican people. What are you, nuts? You might as well just say shit on everybody in New York. You might as well, because we're all the fucking same people. I mean, I looked at Mark and I'm like, my first boyfriend was Puerto Rican. What the fuck is he saying? Half the people he and I knew, me and Trump specifically, knew growing up, were Puerto Rican people. Because that's who we were raised around in Queens. Yes, that Queens, where Trump is from, where I'm from. Yeah, we know those people. We were raised with those people. We went to school with those people. Our parents knew those people. And the racist fucks that raised us, sorry, they were afraid that those people were going to come and take their jobs. No. Their parents did the shit jobs that our parents thought they were too fucking good to do. And that's just the truth. You know, my boyfriend's father was the janitor of our building, okay? His mom babysat other kids in our building, okay? My mother fucking thought she was a hot shot and she was a secretary in Manhattan. My father was a fucking nuclear engineer. Whoop, whoop, big deal. Guess what? Everybody's dead now. They're all in the same motherfucking place. I don't give a shit. So, I mean, this striving to be this, that, and the other thing, we're all going to the same place. I don't give a fuck what you believe, because we're all going to wind up there. It doesn't matter. So all of this ridiculousness, I'm better than you, bullshit, y'all better get over it. You know, I got into this argument yesterday with somebody I've been friends with for decades, literally, not argument. It was a discussion. And it got very clear to me that men don't get it, okay? The men we love do not understand why abortion is such a big, and I know, honey, I am going to tangent all over this motherfucker, but you're going to have to ride with your Auntie Raina on this one. All right, so we were discussing the election, of course, because everybody wants to know what we're talking about. So we're talking about abortion. We're talking about, bodily autonomy and what it means to a person to lose part of that. And this gent and I are having this conversation, and the gent is saying, well, there's other issues. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, but I'm not taking away one of your pieces of bodily autonomy. I'm not trying to remove part of your right. Perhaps if you had a vagina and I tried to take away some of your rights, you might come to understand why I am freaking the fuck out over here. And he's like, yeah, but, there are other things, and I can't pretend to be anything other than what I am. And I said, you know what? Sometimes in life, and I've had this conversation regarding other things before as well, as a matter of fact, in regards to transgender people. Sometimes in life, your understanding isn't required. Your acceptance, however, is. It's not necessary for you to understand why someone feels the way they feel. It's not necessary for you to understand the inner workings of a mind of somebody who says they're transgender. It's not necessarily important to you to understand what that person is going through. It is, however, important for you to accept it. You may not get it, but you do have to accept it. And that's sometimes as good as it's going to get for some people. So I understand that there are Trump supporters, and, whatever makes sense to them is making sense to them about him. I'm sorry about that. I don't get it. Fortunately, the Trump supporters in my life are all dead at this point because I was never able to understand it. I was never able to accept it. That's a failing on my part. I get that. But yeah, sometimes you just have to accept and walk away. And it's a very sad thing. And I've cut many people out of my life for being stupid. And it's a judgment call. I can only hope that people understand what a fucking dick in the ass they're getting, and not in a happy way, by this fucking moron who has called people garbage, who has called the vice president low IQ, a bitch, and many other very not nice things, to suddenly pick up on President Biden's gaffe of garbage and now is trying to make some kind of hay out of it, like he's insulted half the country, when in fact Trump said that America is a garbage can.
Well, did you see his little stunt from yesterday?
Yes, I did.
In a garbage truck. While he was saying that he knew nothing about the comedian and he had no idea what he was going to say, blah, 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 blah. And yet he is giving an interview from a garbage truck, dressed as a garbage man, and the garbage truck has his logo on it. I mean, like, they slapped his logo on it. And I'm like, okay, how stupid do you think people are? Okay, I mean, I am definitely, but I think you're kind of underestimating the very voters that you need to win. You just alienated them. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And I just want to point that out. Also, to also say that that little stunt at MSG has probably single-handedly cost them more voters, and maybe has put Harris, has swung the balance for her, because every prominent Latino performer who has a following has come out for Harris and has denounced the Trump campaign. And I mean, and I think it's important for people to understand this is who they are. You know, if anybody listening, and I find this doubtful, but if anybody's listening who's been like, oh, they don't mean it, has been, an explainer or an apologizer or whatever for what Trump and the GOP have been saying or saying that they'll do or whatever, this is who they are. This is who they are. And when people tell you who they are, you need to believe them. And, I mean, if you are supporting that type of administration, those type of politicians in office, you are sending a message to me and every other person in this country who exists on any level of diversity. I mean, and I'm not just talking about, brown and black folk or trans folk, but women, pagans, anybody who is not a white Christian man, then you are basically saying, I don't care about those people. That's what you're saying, that you don't care. And so my thing to you is fuck you. Either get with the program or suffer the consequences.
Yeah. I would also like to call out the following people as being you ain't shit. Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, anyone who is in charge of a newspaper, as these gentlemen who are famous, and some of them are in charge of newspapers, and some of them are just very big in the stratosphere of money, who have refused to back someone because they're afraid of Trump, and we know you're afraid. Fuck you. If my dumb ass can come out and say I'm Harris all the way, then you have enough fucking money to protect your asses and come out for someone. To not endorse a political candidate shows that you are the weakest kind of pussies, period. Period. Geraldo came out for Harris. Mark Cuban came out for Harris. Okay? And if Mark Cuban isn't afraid of Trump, Warren Buffett, what the fuck are you thinking? Jeff Bezos, you could buy a planet to send Trump to. Okay? Are you kidding me? You're afraid of him? This is some crazy-ass bullshit.
I don't think he's afraid of him. I think that he's hedging his bet. And,
That's stupid.
you know.
It's stupid. It's a pussy move. I don't care.
So there was a really great article in the Columbia Review yesterday, the day before, basically talking about how, you know, so many news organizations are missing the boat. And, you know, and specifically talked about, you know, the New York Times, the Washington Post, you know, the decision of the LA Times also, you know, because they also, excuse me, refused to allow there to be an endorsement. You know, it's a bigger problem than just what you've said. I mean, we have known for a while that news is changing, news media is changing, the whole structure is changing, and you know, we need a better approach to how we get our news, and who are, you know, rather than just losing faith in journalists altogether. You know, we need to be more discerning, and we need to be better educated when it comes to who we trust for our news. And unfortunately, most of the big media outlets are not it. You know, Jed Legum, Aaron Rupar, you know, there are, you know, Margaret Sullivan, who was the public editor for the New York Times. You know, I mean, she has her own site now. You know, I think she's doing a Substack. But my point is that there are many, many really good journalists who have left organizations for one reason or another, and, you know, which makes it hard. It makes it really hard to find good people that are actually doing the work and that they are reporting, you know, accurate facts. This idea of the metrics that have worked in past elections, I mean, they don't apply anymore. You know, I mean, the answer in 2016 was like, we're going to fact check. You know, well, that did not even begin to slow down the tide of mis or disinformation. You know, the metrics that we've tried to use, you know, there is no both sides to this. You know, you cannot be unbiased and neutral about, you know, fascism. You can't. You know, you just can't.
You can't be neutral on a moving train, saith Chomsky. But that's not even it for me. What's it for me is that we are now in a land where facts don't even matter to half the country. Because when you're told to believe what I say and not your lying eyes, this term sane-washing that I keep hearing over and over again, where Trump just waved his magic fuck stick, and anything he said before today is almost rendered null and void by his followers because he has now said something new and different today, and there's no dissuading them, and there's no arguing with them, and it doesn't matter, and nothing matters, and I don't know what this fucking magic is. And when you try to reason with these people, and he says, oh, but Trump gave me a check. No, Congress gave you a check. Trump just insisted that his name be on it. They don't connect the dots. They don't want to connect the dots. Nothing fucking matters. You can tell them all of these facts. You can show them the progression of all the shitty things Trump did day after day after day after day. And if it didn't fucking annoy or touch them, it's like it didn't fucking happen. If their kids weren't locked in cages, if they didn't get stuck coming back into the United States from a foreign country, if none of this shit touched them, if nobody in their family died from the failed COVID response, they're fine. Nothing happened to them. I don't understand. They are in this fucking silo. They are rabid for him. I don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. And, you know, as part of my conversation with a very honest person yesterday who said to me that he could not understand the loss of autonomy for a woman being that important because he's a man and he doesn't get it, at least he was honest enough to say that. I think that's probably one of the more honest conversations a man has ever had with me about the fact of abortion and the male important, where men tend to put that as far as importance if you're a Republican male. So I have to send some appreciation for that. But as far as anything else goes, they're in a silo. And I don't know what kind of crap is in that Kool-Aid. I don't know if they put crack in it, a toe, some kind of LSD. I don't know what's in it, but there's something in it. And it has allowed them to not think, and they don't want to think, and they're happy not to think. And they are just blinded by this incredible snake oil salesman. I mean, people who have known him forever have come out and said, he's not as rich as you think he is. We knew that. He's not a good businessman. Everything you saw in The Apprentice was made up. We knew that. But they're still just, I mean, is the facade that fucking good? I didn't think it was, but other people seem to just fall all over it. They want to believe it so badly. I'm astounded that it's still being gotten away with.
It's racism, okay? It's the racism. It's the strong man. It's all of that, you know. But I think that the biggest thing is that it's a smaller. First of all, let me just say this. I think that a lot of the polls are very wrong. The GOP has been really skewing things by getting some of these, what was the one I saw yesterday? It's Polly something. I can't think of the name of it. I'm sorry. I apologize. I am just like fried, and today has already been just utter chaos.
Yeah.
Thanks to courtesy of SAMHAIN and many other things. But they're skewing things to, you know, they're doing polls that are not proper polls. They're not based the way that they should be, and it's giving the false impression. You know, I mean, they keep talking, you know, it's going to be another red mirage, okay? It is not going to be a red wave. Yeah. It's a bunch of bullshit, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that people need to vote, and they need to vote like their life depends on it, because it does. But as far as the appeal, I think the appeal is far less. The average person, you know, his donations are way down. Like all that grassroots money that they were getting, you know, $25 here and $50 there and $10 here. He ain't getting that this time. Harris, by comparison, has raised like, I don't know, fucking $1 billion or several billion. Yeah. I mean, a crazy amount of money, and a lot of it's been all small donations, right? You know, the only concern that I have about the election, I'm not worried about the Electoral College. I'm not worried about her winning the popular vote. I am worried about the fuckery that the GOP is, you know. But I also think that, you know, we have people like Mark Elias, you know. I mean, all he has done is, like, every time they bring some dumbass lawsuit, he goes and pokes enough holes in it that the balloon goes fizzling off somewhere. You know, will there be violence? Possibly. You know, but the reality is that as long as we all stick together, we outnumber them. Okay, we outnumber them.
We do.
There are more of us than there are of the people who support him. And the diehard people that support him are a tiny group. It's small. It's less than, probably 25%, which is a huge amount when you think in terms. But we got this. I mean, I think, we have to believe that things are going to come out right in the end, If not, then we can all sing songs in the concentration camp together, I guess. I mean, I don't know, because I feel like it's that dire, but I also feel like I think, I was very worried when Biden stepped down, and then I wasn't sure that Kamala would be able to get the support that she needed, that there was going to be fuckery there. I was pleasantly surprised.
I was sure.
Did you see that the other night? Okay, so we've already talked about some pretty negative stuff here, but her rally at the Ellipsis in D.C. was fucking off the hook. I did not watch the rally, but I did, I was checking in on Twitter and Threads and some of the other platforms to just kind of see what was happening. It's fucking amazing. Like 75,000 people showed up. So, people like Tom Nichols couldn't get in, which is pretty hilarious, So, I mean, I think we're right to be worried because I think it is maybe not going to be as close as folks would have us believe, Right. And, hey, we are witches and pagans, okay? So everybody out there listening, here's what I want you to do. Okay? It's Samhain. Today's Samhain. How about when you light your shit for your ancestors tonight, or you're doing whatever the thing it is that you do, how about you say, if there was ever a time that all you dead people wanted to do something that might be actually helpful to humanity, now keep in mind. Well, keep in mind, that my ancestors are not particularly helpful, and honestly, I don't really even like very many of them, especially some of the more recently dead ones. But so from my perspective, I'm going to be like, look, all you fuckers, all the times that you have annoyed the fuck out of me, the one thing you can do for me, if you ever cared anything, is to fucking help make sure that we don't end up, with the orange Hitler leading this fucking country. How about that? Also, here's some chocolate and some whiskey. And now, go do. Yes, I adore you. I admire you. I'm glad you came back. Now go do some fucking work and leave me alone. But that I am the most irreverent pagan you will ever find.
Only next to me. Which is why we're friends, I guess.
Well, on that note.
Yes. All right, everybody, I will see you tomorrow with 1,000. But for now, please go support the Wild Hunt. Check out wildhunt.org. We do know that that's real journalism. And don't this is the crunch time where the media, as it is trying to make sure you stay engaged, you stay concerned, because without fear and without stirring up your emotions, they're going to lose revenue. So don't get overly concerned. I am 100% with Starr on this as far as, do I think we have it? I do. Do I think we have time to slow down and tell people it's okay not to vote? Never. Never, never, never. Because in the words of our next president, when we fight, we win. So we got to keep fighting, okay? All right.
Absolutely.
Everybody take care. And we will be back for a post-election show next week. So until then, say goodnight, Starr.
Good night, Starr.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Bye. Blessed Samhain.